I've been traveling the cosmos so
On a
long,
road so long.
looking for
The
a
face
light
of
to
a
guide me
millionaire,
home, but
burning
every
memories
time it leads
of
me
an
to
enemy.
this
Fate
place.
of the killer.
Ah, these powers
Getting
are
everything.
Hey, what's going on, you guys? And welcome back to That's a Wrap. My name is the Raptor, and I am your host this evening, as always. And today we have some more slaves, or mods, I guess, if you want to use the politically correct term, but you know, it's all the same. Starting off, we have Zero, the Scourge of the Omniverse himself, who you'll remember from the Blazing 8 stream. Say hi, Zero.
Help, I'm being held captive here against my will. Somebody please save me. I can't speak for much.
You already said that. Yeah, it's okay. We also have our very own Ant-Man, so to speak. Ant, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm also Ernie the chicken for whatever reason.
Yeah, that's perfect. And last but not least, we have Goose, a Metal Gear Goose named Spectral.
Howdy, everyone. I like birds.
You like birds. Great. Do you like?
We have the bird boys here.
Yes, we are.
Exactly.
We are the bird boys essentially. I'm a dinosaur.
Yeah.
Although our dinosaurs and
You're
dinosaur.
a raptor.
Yeah, I'm a raptor.
Is considered a type of bird.
Yeah.
Not literally hogs.
That is
We
true.
have Metal Goose Solid over here, and we have Ernie the giant chicken.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
So today we're the bird boys. It's not That's a Wrap. It's just the bird boys.
The bird.
I'm
boys
fine with
should
that.
Birds
Yeah.
who cry.
Oh yeah, there's gonna be a lot of crying for the next hour. All right, yeah. Thank you guys so much for being here, and thank you guys for tuning in. If you didn't see the last episode, yeah, we have a podcast now for some reason. Last time we talked about season 11 predictions, so make sure to go check that out if that interests you. But today we're gonna be talking about most wanted death battles. I've made a video on this before. That was a really long time ago, and it definitely is in need of some updating. If you know, you know. And I have some other people here who want to share their most wanted episodes, or most wanted episodes in various ways. We're going to be attacking this question from a few different angles. I have some questions prepared to ask the panel. And yeah, make sure to leave your own most wanted episodes in the comments down below, whatever else you want to say. But I guess a few housekeeping things actually before we get started. If anyone's wondering how often this will be, I'm thinking about once a month. You know, maybe we'll do it a little more often if a lot of people are really into it, but I'm thinking once a month is a good sweet spot, you know, to have this like the video of the week. And in terms of anyone from the Discord watching who want to be on the show, but you're not a mod, don't worry. I am planning on opening this up to members in a little bit. I might ask some people specifically, or I might try it another way. I'm being very vague about this because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. But yeah, other than that, I think we can get started talking about most wanted episodes. So the first question I want to ask you guys is a bit of an interesting question. It's not really asking what's your most wanted right now, but it's, have you ever had a most wanted episode that became an episode of the series? Like has already become one? And if so, what did you think of it? Did it live up to your expectations, etc.? So, Ant, we'll start off with you. Do you have any examples like that?
I do actually.
Okay.
Like years ago, my most wanted matchup of all time was Lucario versus Renamon. I remember seeing the 1 minute melee, and it was perfect. I love Lucario. I love Renamon, Pokemon, Digimon. I think it's a really good matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Then I remember when they announced it, and I was excited, you know. My most wanted matchup was finally happening,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't live up to my expectations.
Oh.
I don't think so at all. It was just the fight was well animated, but it was really short. There wasn't much going on, and I just don't have much to say about it because there's barely anything going on in it. But I think the death was pretty cool though.
Yeah, the death was pretty shocking to me. I remember when I first saw it, because yeah, that's a season 4 episode. At this point, it's ancient, which is weird for me to think about because I remember reacting to that episode. You know, it's crazy how fast time has gone. But no, I totally understand what you mean. Yeah, I do remember thinking the fight was short. I remember when I first reacted to it, I wasn't really thinking about it with the critical mindset that I usually do these days, so I just remember enjoying it in the moment and thinking like, yeah, that was a fun episode of Death Battle. But looking back, yeah, I can't say it's one of my favorite season 4 episodes. I don't think it's by any means like offensive or bad, you know, in terms of too many key areas, but like it, yeah, I can see that being lackluster for someone who was really looking forward to that. So I do apologize, but I am happy that you still got to see it happen in some way.
Yeah, I just personally think the 1 minute melee did it far times better than the death battle did, because I don't know, it's just it was just kind of disappointing.
Fair enough. Moving on down the line, Spectral, do you have any examples like that?
Well, I don't think I've ever had my absolute most wanted happen, since that's been kind of like 1 or 2 consistent matchups, which we'll get into later.
Right.
But I've had like big matchups I've wanted. For example, Galactus versus Unicron, because like who really didn't want that? That one was pretty good. Looking through the playlist I pulled up right now, I would probably say my actual most wanted out of the ones that happened was Jason versus Michael.
Gotcha.
Which slightly pains me because, God, I don't even know what to say. There's so much missed potential.
Yeah,
I agree.
I know that episode is quite divisive amongst people. Some people were saying it's like the worst thing they've ever put out. Some people were saying that they actually enjoyed it. And you know, I enjoyed it for what it was, but especially like when I hear, because I know that the animator didn't have a lot of time. Like I know like it was just them working on it. I know they didn't have a lot of time to really get it out. And the more I hear about these issues that apparently plagued the episode, the more I think, yeah, that makes sense. Like it adds up kind of for like how the episode turned out the way it did. It should have been more than what it was. Regardless of how you feel about what we got, it should have been more, because it's one of those episodes that have been built, like not built up for so long, but people had kind of built it up for themselves. You know, they'd waited for so long. And yeah, I understand if some people were like, eh, you know, it didn't really work out the best.
So what kind of shot the episode in the foot was how they treated the analysis way differently. How they made it like this whole campfire story, which kind of set it on like a higher bar, which I think is another one of people's main issues, is that it built this up as this big event. Yeah, it was really short, and 16 seconds is dedicated to Jason walking.
Well, I think the reason I get why they did that, because they want, especially with Boomstick's line at the end right after, like, I know what they were trying to do was say, oh, is Michael gonna come back? It hasn't ended yet. Michael's got to come back. Oh wait, no, it's over. Like, I know that's the reaction they wanted to get. But I also know that not everyone reacted that way. They were just more so confused. And yeah, I really enjoyed the tone that they were trying to go for. I enjoyed, you know, the campfire stuff, but the other stuff didn't live up to that. Like it wasn't up to par with what the episode was trying to make it seem like it was supposed to be, if that makes any sense.
Like for me, I thought it was pretty good, because if you think about it, they only just hack and slash in their movies. They don't have like, it's not like they don't have a bunch of combo moves or anything like that. So I thought with what they had to work with, they did a pretty good job, honestly.
Oh yeah, no, the combat is definitely well done. Like, it's true to who they are, for sure. But I will say also that, like, I understand that they want to put like a human victim in the animation. I totally get that. But if you put it right in the middle, like, it really bodies the pacing of the episode. And I know I brought this up before, like, if they were gonna do that, I think they should have just started with it. Like, they should have taken like an Omni-Man versus Homelander approach, not, you know, put something in the middle that really like splits up the fight. Like, just put it at the beginning and then lead to an uninterrupted battle and make it a little longer. Like, I think that would have fixed a lot of issues for people for the animation.
Should have had like Michael or Jason steal one or the other's kill, essentially, and that's what caused the fight to break out.
Yeah, like, it should be the inciting incident, not like half the animation.
Not like this mini side plot. Yeah.
I just felt like they were going for like a horror movie vibe.
And I think
they were,
and they got there part way, but they needed more.
I understand that they wanted to try and replicate it to have like the same kind of a vibe as a horror movie with like all that, but like at the end, we weren't there to watch a horror movie. We were there to watch horror movie characters fight.
Okay,
that makes sense.
Yeah, you do need a balance in terms of like what you come to expect from both the characters and literally the thing you're watching. So yeah, for sure. And Zero, what about you? Was there any most wanted episode you had that did become an episode?
I did actually, and it was actually in the same month as Jason versus Michael. One of my most wanted was Silver versus Trunks.
Gotcha.
And I was just very scared for this because, for one thing, I remember hearing, I'm not sure how the truth is, but I remember hearing that one of the main Death Battle team members does not like Silver at all.
That's Ben.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
Yeah, Ben doesn't
Okay.
like. I know Ben doesn't like Silver, and he doesn't like Sasuke. Those are like the two big things I remember.
yeah. So I was kind of afraid of that, like maybe potentially affecting the quality of the Silver side of things. And not only that, you're pitching Silver against the Dragon Ball character, and
I expected Silver
especially
lose.
with like Archie and Xeno in consideration, that scared me even more because I didn't really think that Archie Silver had much, but like I really should have paid more attention. As for it living up to my expectations, it did not live up to them at all, and it exceeded them.
Okay.
In every possible way.
I was about to say, like, there's gonna be a hot take coming in.
Because like the way it started out makes perfect sense. It falls in line with Trunks' job as a time controller, as well as this is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's also the fact that Silver was smart enough to transport this to another wasteland timeline midway through to try to minimize the casualties, despite throwing a building at Trunks earlier, but that's beside the point.
Right.
And the whole fight is just, after that, is just pure awesomeness. I do think that they could have done better with Silver's super transformation, but other than that, it was just perfect all around.
The look and sound of the whole thing is just, it's breathtaking. Like, it is total eye and ear candy in terms of the animation. And yeah, like, I remember this was like the one prediction video for season 9 I decided not to make because I did not know enough about how either of these like alternate continuities worked for these characters. So
You made a prediction. You just didn't predict in the video.
I didn't title it a prediction, so I think that's fair. But absolutely, I didn't know what to expect. Is what I'm trying to say. I didn't know what to expect.
Yeah.
And I was very impressed with how the analyses were able to put in so much information, but also make it somewhat easy to understand for people who weren't that familiar with them. Like as speaking as someone who wasn't that familiar. And yeah, like the fight just went so hard. And I have a question. Like when you say you really wanted Trunks versus Silver, like were you specifically thinking Heroes and Archie or not necessarily?
I wasn't necessarily thinking about it at all.
Okay.
At this current moment in time, this has been for several years. My favorite fictional character ever is Silver.
Gotcha.
And one of my favorite shows is Death Battle. So I was like, I want my favorite fictional character on my favorite internet web show.
Yep.
Just put 2 and 2 together, and Trunks is still one of my favorite Dragon Ball characters. He's not at the top anymore after I delved into the series more, but I thought that the matchup just made sense, even if Trunks was more than likely going to win. And that's another part that's kind of scared me about the episode, was how everyone was saying, oh, Trunks is going to sweep. Trunks is just going to absolutely demolish Silver.
That's what I thought was happening.
And as someone whose favorite fictional character is Silver, I was just like, oh boy, I really don't know how this is going to go, actually, now that I think about it.
Right. Well, you don't want to see your favorite characters die, but at the same time, I try to remove myself from thinking like, I don't need a character to come on the show just so that they can win. If they can come on the show at all, that's fine. That's cool.
Yeah, that was my mentality as well. But at the same time, I was still scared for my boy.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole like ending sequence, freaking beautiful, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like with all the time crystals and everything, holding like other characters.
Oh yeah.
Link in there. You can see Fleetway.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of little Easter eggs all in that. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a hidden Columbo in there somewhere.
No.
But they somehow managed to make the most infamous Sonic meme line of that
Yeah.
isn't gotta go fast.
Yep.
They made it go so hard for no reason.
And then they immediately did the same in the episode after with SpongeBob's I'm Ready.
Yeah.
The whole episode was just an 11 out of 10 for me.
I totally get that. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites of season 9. Great Dragon Ball episode, great Sonic episode. A lot of people see it as one of those controversial episodes, but it's only because of the outcome. It's not even remotely because they think the episode is badly done, because I don't think anyone can deny that that's very, very well done. Yeah, I guess just I can take a turn here. I can't think of an example where like one of my most wanted became an actual episode. I'm really hoping you guys are picking up on the joke.
I was about to say.
Yeah, so I think it's gotten to the point for me where I don't think I can ask for anything from Death Battle again, because they gave me Stitch versus Rocket, and then they gave me Galactus versus Unicron about 6 months later. So it's like, yeah, you guys did the two I wanted the most. Like, thank you so much.
Never ask us for anything again.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. I mean, like,
Except for Meth Gator versus Cocaine Bear.
Oh, sure.
Exactly.
Sure, yeah. So again, this is kind of what I was saying, where it's like my top 10 most wanted episodes definitely needs updating, and I do plan on giving an update in that later in the podcast. But for right now, I'll just say I'm so happy that Stitch versus Rocket came out. I'm so happy that Galactus versus Unicron came out. I love both those episodes. I don't care what anyone says. I know not everyone loves them, but I know there are also a lot of people who agree with me. So you are the people that I like. No, yeah, I enjoy them. I enjoy them a lot, and I'm very appreciative. I guess if I can come up with an example before that point, Winter Soldier versus Red Hood was one that I really, really wanted to see before. And I love that episode too. I think it's great. Definitely a step up in terms of live action from Nightwing versus Daredevil. There are some analysis things where I might have done things a little differently, but otherwise, like, production wise, I think it's great. Goku Black versus Reverse Flash, that's another good example. And that's one of my favorite episodes of all time. Like, that's one for, like, that's my equivalent of Trunks versus Silver, where it's like it exceeded all my expectations, and I love it so much.
Preach.
Yeah,
it was a good episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I really like when you talk about villains, and I really wish that Death Battle would use more villains in general, because the amount of villain on villain fights you'll see for a single season will be quite low. Like, not super low, but like compared to the amount that they use like heroes or something, like it's unfortunate to me, because I think they can do those fights really well, especially when they have good enough personalities. And Black and Reverse Flash really, like, that makes me feel that even more now. Like, I just want them to do more episodes like that.
Yeah, they definitely need to do more villain episodes like Cocaine Bear versus Meth Gator.
Jesus Christ.
Damn, I was gonna say that.
No, let him cook, guys. Let him cook.
Let me cook
Sure.
some meth.
Yeah. No, but again, I'm not gonna, at this point, like, I'm satisfied for the next few years. Death Battle can do whatever they want for all I care, because especially, like, I knew Galactus versus Unicron was happening at some point, and Stitch versus Rocket was gaining more traction. Even with that, though, I wasn't thinking that it was any sort of guarantee that it would happen. Like, I could see them it could be like a ballad banter thing where they read it and it's like, oh yeah, that sounds kind of cool, and they move on. But no, it exists. There's an animation on Death Battle's YouTube page of Stitch and Rocket Raccoon, which is insane to me.
One thing I do have to complain about Stitch versus Rocket is that because they removed end clips, we didn't get like a names Rocket Raccoon end clip, which would have been so perfect.
Fair enough. Yes, I 100% agree. Counterpoint to that, though, there was not a good version of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 that they could have, like, taken audio-visual content from. So if they were to try to do that, it would have sounded like shit.
That is
Yeah,
true.
they could have used like the Guardians.
I mean, true, but
No, I know. And if it came out like this season, like in season 11, and they were still doing end clips, then that would have been perfect. 100%. But anyway, I think
they didn't use the Disney Infinity renders in the thumbnail. 0 out of 10.
But I think that's great. I think that the good answers to this question. But now moving on to the next question. Again, not directly asking what your most wanted is or anything, but does anyone have any most wanted series that they want to see come to the show? And this doesn't have to come from like, oh, I want to see such and such episode a lot, so that means I need to pick this series and this series. Just even if you can't come up with a matchup for them or for the series, is there any series that you just would like to see no matter what? Ant, do you have any ideas like that?
I thought about it, And honestly, a lot of my favorite series have already been on the show.
Okay.
But if I have to pick one, there's only one that comes to mind, and it's probably gonna turn a lot of heads. But I think Fortnite and Death Battle would be pretty cool.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
There's, like
The comments just got 5 times bigger. Thank you for that.
Let him
It's
cook.
like-
Let him cook.
There's like a bunch of not like a whole bunch, but there's some matchups you can do. You could do like Rick versus Jones. You could do one of my personal favorites is Steve versus Jones, which I know that's probably a weird idea to most people, but I think it slaps animation wise. And there's also you could just straight up do Fortnite versus PUBG, I guess. Which I mean, it's not that interesting in my opinion, but it's certainly there.
There's another good matchup for Fortnite, I think, and if Death Battle ever directly collaborated with Fortnite, this would be a perfect way to do it. Wiz versus Dr. Sloan.
Oh my god.
Genuinely, probably Wiz's best matchup that isn't Boomstick.
You know that
Like, I'm not even joking. There's like multiple paragraphs worth of connections for both of them, and it works so well.
honestly, like
Especially if you give them everything.
my main excitement for that would just be from the fact that we could possibly see Wiz and Boomstick Fortnite skins. That's like the main draw for that.
Yeah, that's like a cross. It would probably be like a cross promotion.
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Cool.
I'd be
Like-
more excited for the dummy back bling.
Oh my god. That would actually
I can't wait for them to add the DBX Stadium as a POI,
Oh man.
where we drop in DBX Stadium.
The possibilities
Marshall
are
was the one
endless.
driving the battle bus.
Yeah, and some people are in the Discord server know that like I like to like fake clown on Fortnite, so to speak. I don't hate Fortnite or anything, but I don't know anything about it. Like I swear to God, I know like nothing about it. I know like the littlest details of the lore. So I'm very like I'm supportive that you want to see a new series like especially one as big as Fortnite. I just can't say that I share the hype simply because I know nothing.
That's understandable. There is surprisingly a lot of stuff they could cover. There's the Fortnite comics that somehow ties into Marvel. I
And
don't
DC,
know why.
don't forget that.
Yeah,
DC,
comics. Yep.
Family Guy, Rick and Morty. It's just a lot they could dive in with that, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, totally.
What if they use Ninja?
Ninja versus Burrito.
I've said it before, and like I don't want to hate on people who do think this way because I think it's a perfectly valid way to think, but YouTubers in Death Battle, like even if it's like a made up character, that just has not appealed to me. And I'm not saying that it can't work. Like I'm sure it could work. It's just it's not the kind of thing I'm interested in. You know what I mean? Like is that weird to say?
No, I get that.
Angry Video Game Nerd versus Nostalgic.
Yeah,
Nerd.
like people throw that one around and it does sound funny, I'm not gonna lie. I guess it's just because I don't watch that many YouTube personalities anymore, so I'm not that invested in like characters that they come up with and thinking like, oh, do they have lore? Do they have capabilities? But I totally get it if people are like that and they do like analyzing characters like that, you know?
Like the only YouTuber battle I actually like is Nostalgic Critic versus Angry Video Game Nerd. Like I see all sort of stuff for like Dream versus this guy, Ninja versus this guy. I'm not a fan at all. I just don't think that type of stuff fits well with Death Battle. But if we're talking Angry Video Game Nerd versus Nostalgic Critic, I'm all for that, honestly.
All right.
Depends if like the YouTuber has a quote unquote like content persona, I guess, like with AVGN versus NC, they're sort of their own in-universe quote unquote character that you can draw from and use without like offending the people themselves.
Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely. I again, if anyone watching wants to see YouTubers in Death Battle, sure, go right ahead. I've always said that more is better, more variety is better for the show. So more power to you. Spectral, do you have any most wanted series for the show?
Oh boy, I have a lot. So if you want to skip to 0, that'd be fine.
Okay. Yeah, we'll come back to you, I guess, to get your thoughts and to get your thoughts straight. 0, do you have any most wanted series?
I actually do. We have All right, so Hasbro, right? We got Transformers, we got My Little Pony. We got 2 of the big 3 for Hasbro named franchises. We need only one more to complete it, and that's G.I. Joe. Please, for the love of God, put G.I. Joe on this show in some form. I don't care if it's Snake Eyes versus Genji, or if it's Red Skull versus Cobra Commander. Either of those would satisfy me to some extent.
I think Red Skull
G.I. Joe on the
versus
show.
I think Red Skull versus Cobra Commander just like and this is just me again, my brain turning trying to think of like what Death Battle usually does, and I think like if they're trying to use a character like a series like G.I. Joe, they might be worried that it doesn't get as many clicks, so it's like, oh, let's throw in a Marvel character for good measure, you know? Like I could see them maybe wanting to lean more towards that. But Snake Eyes versus Genji, yeah, like I've heard that being thrown around a bit before too, so I could see that. I think G.I. Joe would be a lot of fun. Again, it's the kind of series I don't really know that much about it, but I do know it could work, and I think it'd be fun to see.
I agree, honestly.
Great.
Awkward silence.
I can go now.
Sure. Yes. Go right ahead.
All right. So sorry if I get a bit ranty, but I don't really want like a specific series, more of like a subsection of a genre.
Okay.
Indie games.
Oh,
My God.
I see.
Oh yeah,
Or
definitely.
with
Shovel
Shovel
Knight
Knight
versus
versus
Dante, please.
Scrooge,
Mm-hmm.
where they did Shovel Knight so dirty in so many ways, except maybe the Victor, but that's a story for another day. But I have been craving indie game representation. I don't need like 5 matchups for one series. I just need more variety, man.
Right.
Freaking bring back Shovel Knight, or heck, even use like Plague Knight, King Knight, Spectre Knight, whatever. Heck, bring in Katana Zero, Five Nights at Freddy's, whatever.
I gotta bring this up because otherwise people will bring it up in the comments. You guys know Scrooge is getting his own comic now by Marvel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Oh, yeah.
Marvel?
Yep.
Isn't he
Yeah.
supposed to be like
And it's
fighting
about
this threat
the
called like the
topic.
Scrooge above all?
Yep. He's traveling the multiverse.
What?
Oh, great.
Everything is a goddamn multiverse now.
Yep. So I don't know if people.
Anyway.
I don't think people will want to revisit
gotta
Scrooge
get it
versus
now.
Shovel Knight anymore. But no, I'm totally on your side. Again, it's weird because indie games is also not something that I'm that interested in, but it is something that I simultaneously really want to see more of. Like I'm totally with you on that. Again, I think it just stems from the fact that I think more variety is good, and for some people, like indie games is like one of the big things that they're into, and it sucks because they're inherently like not as many people are maybe familiar with them, so they're inherently not as likely compared to something like Marvel or DC or Dragon Ball. But it'd be good to get some of them. You know, I totally get that.
For a while, I was fine with them not using it because they kept using them for like DBX. But now I have no idea what's happening with DBX. So, but at the same time, clearly people love these matchups. Look at Bendy versus Cuphead. That is like by far the best DBX, and they reference it in Bill versus Discord. And like Cuphead himself has like 3 popular matchups. Bring in freaking Hat in Time, Bendy and Ink Machine, or like look at my camera roll real quick. Turnip Boy robs a bank. Freaking Stardew Valley versus Villager from Animal Crossing. That one can be fun as hell.
Yeah, I think
let's see.
like Bendy versus Cuphead or Ori versus the Knight is probably like the most likely to be like the next one, or the first big one, I guess I should say, like indie game versus indie game. Like I think those two, because Bendy versus Cuphead has been talked about by so many freaking people. I see it all the time in my comment section. But I also know, again, with Ori versus the Knight, it was on the 2D champion poll from a year and a bit ago. It does suck though, because I do definitely think we're gonna get some champion poll matchups in season 11, but compared to like the other 2D options, I don't know if I'm that confident that it would be Ori versus the Knight, because you have stuff like Finn and Jake versus Mordecai and Rigby, Simone versus Kyle, Cap versus Ichigo, which I would almost argue is like confirmed. Like it has such steep competition, you know, so it does kind of suck again for people who really want those indie game matchups. Like I really do feel for you guys.
I mean, hey, the whole point of Ori and Knight is that they're small guys who are capable of taking down like the biggest of odds, so it would make sense morally.
I see where you're going. Okay, interesting.
Hell, they can even bring in the goofier side of like Fall Guys versus Among Us, and that one's just awesome.
So
I was low-key kind of hoping that was gonna win. I was not gonna lie.
Same.
I was hoping
Honestly,
for
I
that to
can see it
win,
next
honestly,
season,
yeah.
I can legit see it next season.
Well, yeah, because they
But,
put it in the background of Bill Cordick.
Again,
Yeah.
again, the issue is that like the 2D side of the champion poll had like so many big ones that I have no idea how they're gonna decide on what to use. Yeah, those are all great answers. Yeah, thank you so much for that. I guess for me, again, this is the kind of thing I've made a video on before, so I'll recap some stuff from that really quick. My number one is Star Trek. It's been Star Trek for a long time. I don't know how the most popular true science fiction series in the world has not been on the show at all, especially with all its most recent content. Like, it's the perfect opportunity these days to just use it. Whether it's Kirk versus Solo, or, I don't know, Q versus Mr. Miggs' Pitlick, or Picard versus Thrawn. Like, there are a lot of options you could choose, and, like, I really want to see that one. I think now would be a good enough time. Like, I don't know if you're going to find a better time to do episodes like that. Also, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I'd love to see that, even though there's only, like, 2 or 3 matchups I'd really like from it, but I'd still like to see it. Again, just in general, regardless of matchups you can make. Umbrella Academy is probably like my most wanted comic series, even though I know it's not going to happen, but you know, a man can dream. And yeah, other stuff here and there, but the big one is Star Trek. That if I had to give one answer, it's that one.
Yeah, that's fair, honestly.
Yeah, I like, especially now that they've used Lord of the Rings, I am a lot more hopeful that they will kind of recognize, like, oh yeah, you know, people really like, you know, this true fantasy stuff. Maybe let's get some really hardcore science fiction stuff. And I know, you know, some people might say, oh, yeah, Star Wars is already science fiction. That's like fantasy in a science fiction setting, if you ask me. True. Like, I don't think that's true science fiction. Star Trek is true science fiction.
I agree.
Plus, honestly, I think there's only like one major Star Wars character that like hasn't been on the show that like isn't Luke. But even then, like, I don't think there's many major Star Wars matchups right now. People are clamoring.
I know there's Kylo Ren versus Edelgard. People have been talking about that. Mandalorian has a lot of matchups, I've heard. Yeah. And
there's like that one Fallout guy. He has an opponent. Where I forgot his
Courier.
name. Courier, yeah.
People really
like
want to.
Slayer.
People really want to put Darth Maul in a matchup too. Like, I see so many for him.
Darth Maul versus Spider-Man, baby. We want that.
Can't wait for Darth Maul versus Carnage.
Wasn't Darth Maul versus Spider-Man like a superpower beatdown?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay. I'm like, I remember that from something, but I think that's it. Yeah. Okay, that's a throwback. But yeah, for me, it's like Kirk versus Solo is one of my most wanted episodes. Kirk versus Solo is one of my most wanted episodes.
Wow.
I know, funny how we're talking about that. I'd love to see that at some point. Before we get into like just straight most wanted episodes, I do have one more kind of interesting question, and some of you may have already kind of answered this a little bit, but we can circle back if you have. And this is what is your most wanted episode that you think not many other people want? Whether it's because it's like really obscure, or you know a lot of people don't like it. Like, for any reason like that, does anyone have any examples like that? Like, Ant, do you have any examples like that?
I have a lot of examples, but the one I'm thinking about turns the most heads. It is Spider-Man versus Batman, but a remaster. Because I know Batman has been on the show like 1,000 times, but I really want Spider-Man to return to the show. Mm-hmm. But his only problem is that he just doesn't have that many good matchups. Like, I know there's Donnie versus Spider-Man and Sideways and all that, but Spider-Man versus Batman is like the matchup. It's like what Goku versus Superman kind of is. And I think that, I know Batman would probably lose again, but and another thing about that is, like, that was the first death battle that I've ever like debated with, because I remember I used to debate all the time back in school.
Yeah.
My first debate was Spider-Man versus Batman, and I remember using that death battle actually to back up my arguments and whatnot. So I think they should definitely revisit that episode, because Spider-Man is long overdue for an episode. I
literally made a video talking about my most wanted returning combatants, and Spider-Man is pretty damn close to the top. I want to see him return. I am happy with how much Death Battle has tried to use other characters, like other Spider people, like Miles and Gwen and Miguel, but I think Peter Parker needs some more time. Like, we saw him in season 1, it's been so long since season 1, and he has so much rich material that they still can talk about. Like, I think that would all be so good. And honestly, I wouldn't mind Batman versus Spider-Man remastered. I know some people may not like that idea, but I think people who don't like that idea probably have like another really big matchup for Spider-Man that they want to see, and like they don't want to see a remastered episode instead of that. But for me, yeah, like I don't have like a major opponent for Spider-Man anymore that I think like, oh, if it's not Spider-Man versus this, then it can't happen. I know whether or not Spider-Man comes into a new episode or if it's a remastered of Batman versus Spider-Man. I know either way they could make it really fucking good, and I really want to see him come back. Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Spectral, how about you? Is there any episode you have in mind that you really think like you might be the only one who wants it, or not that many other people want it?
Aside from like episodes that would be like my own matchups that are basically never going to happen because I am just a random guy.
Okay.
I'll go with Inferno Cop versus Axe Cop.
Oh.
Interesting.
It is the epitome of that one Moon Knight meme, the random shit go. It is. Just imagine that. Turn up to 11. One character barely moves at all. You have one frame of animation. It peak comedy, and you can go over the absurdness that they get into.
Okay. I have heard that one thrown around a little bit. I don't think you're alone necessarily, but it's not. I can't say it's one that's gotten like a ton of traction either. But
Hot Shot Justice.
Right.
Oh yeah, Hot Shot.
Yeah, that does sound interesting. Yeah. How about you, Zero? Any examples like that?
I'm gonna have to say Snake Eyes versus Genji again.
Okay.
Because, like, for one thing, the more popular G.I. Joe matchup is, quite frankly, Red Skull versus Cobra. But another thing is people like a bunch of other matchups for Genji, and Snake Eyes just doesn't have any dialogue to work with, which I can understand for that criticism.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I just love the matchup to death. The animation would be still just as good as like any other Genji or Snake Eyes opponent, in my opinion. I mean, sure, every other opponent has their differences.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get me wrong, but I still think that the overall quality would be the same. And not to mention, it's both military sword heroes. Come on. Like, I know that you can have a contrast with like Gray Fox or like Taskmaster, but like if you want a Taskmaster opponent, Deathstroke is right there.
Yes.
Gray Fox, I don't think needs to be on the show at all, quite frankly. Like, honestly, I think literally
get him out of here.
Anyone else, any other character. I see freaking Monsoon or any of the
Armstrong.
Metal Gear Rising like Antags. Any of them, I think, have a better shot than Gray Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand that Gray Fox is iconic, but I think that the other characters, other antagonists, just have more to work with.
Gotcha.
Or at least are more interesting.
Okay. Yeah, cool. No, definitely great to hear that. Yeah, for me, I guess a lot of people who have seen this channel before know that I like this really obscure matchup, which I think technically my brother and I created. Like, I don't think anyone else talks about it. But it's Dark Willow from Buffy the Vampire Slayer versus Vanya Hargreaves, or I guess Victor Hargreaves if you're going by the Netflix show from Umbrella Academy, or also known as White Violin. I really enjoy that matchup. I enjoy the characters a lot. I don't think... Again, it's an Umbrella Academy matchup, so it's not going to happen already, because there's only like 4 books. Actually, I'm not even sure the 4th one's out. There's like 3 or 4 books and a Netflix series, but I don't think that's really enough. So that's probably not going to happen. And I don't know, is there a fight that like I really... that not a lot of people like they actively dislike? I guess the closest thing to that right now is because a lot of people really want to see Michelangelo versus Jay Walker, but I'm not gonna lie, I kind of like Old Man Logan versus The Last Ronin more. And I don't know if that's popular.
I doubt you're alone on that.
Yeah, no, I'm probably not alone, but it's just that like so many people are saying I want Mikey versus Jay, especially after the Death Battle cast episode, and that's cool. Like, I'm sure it's a cool episode. I'm sure it would be a cool episode. It's a cool matchup. I don't know that much about Ninjago. I do, however, know about Marvel, and my brother has been reading a lot of IDW, TMNT, so I know that's one and he loves Wolverine. So like for him, that's like that would be a dream for him. But for me, like I also love that idea. But that's just me personally. And yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. A lot of the matchups, I find that I do have some good company, which I'm thankful for, because that means there's more of a chance they'll get on the show. But yeah, I think that's all I got to say. So I think on that note, we can now move into most wanted episodes in general. So this is the real meat of this talk. Again, we're gonna start with you. And try to name like as many of your most wanted that you can think of. Like not too many, like don't say like 100 matchups or anything, but the ones that like really come to your mind, go off.
Okay, so I have 4. First one is King K. Rool versus Blackbeard from One Piece.
That's cool.
Then
Yeah.
I got Scrooge McDuck versus Mr. Krabs.
That's cool too.
I named this one earlier, but Steve versus Jonesy. I think that's a pretty cool one. But my absolute most wanted at the moment is Composite Goku versus Composite Sonic.
Ah, okay.
My most wanted.
The immediate disappointment in your voice.
The immediate. Oh no, it's me.
No, I can understand that perspective, because I know some people I know just want like regular Goku versus regular Sonic.
Yeah.
But if you do want to mix up kind of like the perspective on the comparison, I could see that. I can see that being like at the front of your mind, where it's like, let's take everything Goku's been a part of, everything Sonic's been a part of. I could totally see that.
Yeah, because my thing is like, first they did Vegeta versus Shadow, where they just used base material for both characters. Then they did Silver versus Trunks, where they used like, the most powerful iterations, basically. And then with Sonic versus Goku, you could just literally go with everything. We're talking Smash, Jump Force, Fortnite. If it's official, they can use it, and I think that'll be a good way to end off like a sort of trilogy in a way with Sonic versus Dragon Ball. And I just think the best way to do it is composite everything with Sonic and Goku.
I don't know if this would change your mind on this. It probably wouldn't, but Vegeta versus Shadow and the original Mario versus Sonic did include Archie material.
Yeah, I know about that.
Yeah.
And technically, and Luigi versus Tails did too. They just didn't really talk about it that much.
Yeah, I know that. And for me, it's just basically how different the research methods are now. Because back then, they just, if it was there, they used it.
Yeah.
But now they just would dive more into specifics,
Mm-hmm. Well, they make sure that they know what they're looking at and what they think they shouldn't be looking at. Yeah.
Yeah, because I could tell back then they just kind of went with whatever, because that was the earlier seasons and whatnot.
It's still a show. Like, it has to get off the ground in some way. Like, they need to prioritize what will get it off the ground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. No, great answers. Thank you so much. Spectral, I'm sure you got some indie game stuff to talk about, but either way, what do you want to see?
So, I'll start off with not indie games.
Okay.
Ghost Rider versus Spawn.
Woo!
I doubt I'm in the minority here. Ghost Rider was the first movie I ever saw, the first Nick Cage one.
Oh.
The first movie I ever saw in theaters, so I have an attachment to him as a character.
How old were you, if you don't mind me asking, when you saw that?
3 months.
3 months?
Yes.
You watched Ghost Rider at 3 months old. You must have been traumatized.
Parents are like, oh yeah, we want to go
my...
see a movie. We need to take our kid with us. We can't afford a babysitter. Let's go see the fucking demon Skullhead movie.
It was more of my parents wanted to see the movie, and they just sat in the back corner, and I was just chilling.
Yeah.
So my technicality is the first movie I ever saw in theaters, so I've always had a special place in my heart for
okay.
that movie.
How
the character.
Did you enjoy Ghost Rider versus Lobo?
I did enjoy it.
Okay.
But it wasn't what I wanted.
Right, because you wanted this one. You wanted Ghost Rider versus Spawn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spawn is one of like the top most like required character to come back.
Yes, I definitely agree with that.
Sure, Kratos versus Spawn. Kratos is a run back, but I think Spawn, out of the two, has the more matchups people are requesting. Don't quote me on that, though.
Well, he has a few. But although Kratos...
Yeah, because I know...
Kratos is one of those characters you can put against, like, almost anyone. Like, even if, as long as they have, like, some kind of god-killing nature in their description, then they'll put Kratos against them and say that he wins through lore scaling.
Kirby.
Yeah. It's just pure badassery, and, like, I get some people getting burnt out by it because of like how much people are like hyping it up, but I still think it deserves that hype. Another major one. Let's see. I'm stalling before I get to the big one.
Of course, just bring up the ones that you like that really speak to you. You know, the ones that you can come up with on the top of your head.
Let's see. All right. Here's the first indie game one. Fall Guys versus Among Us. I unironically think this is fun as hell. I did a whole 31-page long script for it.
Holy shit.
And
Wow.
yes, read it please. I spent months on that thing. But it's another matchup where if you use everything they both have, the potential's basically unlimited. Because they both have a bunch of crossovers, they have a bunch of like cosmetics, like freaking Fall Guys has a Hatsune Miku skin. And you're telling me you don't want to see that versus like Sans Undertale Among Us costume?
Thing is, like, everyone who talks about Among Us versus Fall Guys either loves it or they hate it. Like, it can't be in between. So I feel like I'm committing a crime when I say that I'm very in between. Like, yeah, I think like it might be interesting to see. I won't deny that, but like, I'm just not really attached to either series. I've played Among Us, I think maybe like twice in my life. So, you know, really don't have an attachment. And Fall Guys, not at all. So, you know, I don't have an attachment to either of those. However, I do think people that say, like, it's the worst thing to ever be thought of, I think maybe tone it back a little bit. Like, it's fun. Like, it's definitely fun. And I think people who don't like fun, I don't know, maybe just keep quiet.
That's a very fair argument.
That
Fellas,
is a
let's
fair
burn him at the
argument.
stake for being the middleman. There can only be the people that like it or hate it.
Yeah.
We have to burn him.
Okay.
Burn him at the stake.
Anyway,
I'm gonna go burn
one
myself
last
right
thing
after this is over. Don't worry.
Yeah, one last
Don't
thing I
you
will
dare
say
do it
about
before you free me from this goddamn basement.
Yeah, we'll see. Spectral.
All right, one last thing I will say about it is that nowadays it can straight up go into a cosmic fight because Among Us has a planet-busting laser.
Oh my
Fall
god.
Guys has tank black holes,
Oh my God.
and they have a supersonic skin.
That is the
They have
funniest.
access to the TARDIS.
That is the funniest thing I could have heard. Among Us has a planet-busting laser.
Yeah, and
They
Vampire
do.
Slayers, there's an animated trailer for Among Us DLC.
Uh,
And they straight up, their gun just destroys a planet.
And it was just,
So-
it was just a handgun. Or like a laser
Yeah.
handgun. And it just destroyed it with ease.
that is
Like,
so
But fun
cool.
fact, even with that, Fall Guys can arguably be universal because they have
What?
both Bomberman scaling,
Oh my god.
which is official, and there was this Twitter thread where every like it got, the Fall Guy would grow larger and larger, and at the end, the Fall Guy grew so long that he destroyed the universe.
I am not in the
in time and
mood.
space.
I'm not in the mood for this headache tonight. I'm just going to assume. I'm just going to take your word for it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Geek
on to
fiction.
the big one. I'm sure most people know me for Ori versus Knight.
Mhm.
What can I say? I sort of didn't want to mention Hollow Knight and Ori when I talked about indie games on the show because like that would make it too obvious what Best Wanted was.
Yeah.
But like Hollow Knight, favorite game of all time, is what first got me into my indie game fix. Ori, beautiful game, beautiful story, and just looking at the two games, it's a case of where it's kind of like a crime to not do the fight in at least partially hand drawn. With such styles like that and how beautiful they are, just the tone and freaking art direction they have would just make it pure eye candy that even if you didn't include a bunch of their stuff, the fight would still look amazing.
Yeah.
And then you can also play off the whole light versus dark dynamic of like light magic versus void or whatever. I don't want to get too much into lore of each series. I don't want to give my boss a headache.
No, that's okay. No, I don't think Ori versus the Knight will ever be one of like my most wanted episodes like ever, but it is always gonna be one where it's like, yeah, I'd like to see it. I think it would look really, really good. Zero. What do you give us something good? What do you want to see? Don't be cringe.
Oh, please be cringe. We need the chaos. We have too many good
so before I
opinions
list
here.
off my own, I wanted to list off some matchups that someone who couldn't make it here today wanted. That person in particular is Metal.
Rest in peace.
Due to
He died on the way here.
Yeah.
KIA.
He's a baked potato
but
now.
Due to scheduling, he couldn't make it, so I will be listing his three most wanted.
Sure.
So, his third most wanted is Jala versus Grog. I can't really say much about Grog's series as a whole, but I will say that Jala or any sort of Brawlhalla rep would be great on this show. Second most wanted is Naruto versus Luffy.
I thought that was his number 1 most wanted, so I'm interested. I'm curious what his number 1 is.
Yeah, his number 2 is Naruto versus Luffy. His number 1 most wanted, and I actually really like this idea a lot, is Jump Force Avatar versus Mii Brawler.
Oh, yeah,
or
okay.
Mii Fighter.
Oh, hell
Smash
yeah.
Bros.
He has brought that up
Ah.
before. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
I remember.
I can absolutely agree on that. That is a very good matchup, and I would kill to see it at some point. My only gripe would be them constantly ragging on Jump Force as a game during the analysis.
They
also,
would.
Nee's probably
They
lose,
would rip
make me
it to
sad.
shreds.
Yeah. No, I
They
think
would rip that shit to
I think
shreds.
that'd be fun. I think Grog versus Jala would also be interesting. And Naruto versus Luffy is another one where it's like, I cannot express how aggressively middle of the road I am on it. Like, I think people who say that it's awful, I think they need to calm down. I think it's fine. Like, yeah, you might be able to find better opponents from some perspectives, but like, it works. It would work. It would be cool. Like, just, I'm fine accepting that, you know? Like, I love Naruto. One Piece, you know, I'm not as interested in, but I am seeing the appeal, like, 100%, like, one of the most popular anime in the world, like, obviously. If Naruto versus Luffy happened, fine. You know, I don't think it's anything to lose our heads over. And obviously, like, again, with Metal, like, some people really, really want it, and that's okay.
The thing is with Naruto versus Luffy is that if you don't like it as a matchup, then you're basically just gonna feed Luffy to either Mr. Fantastic or Plastic Man. Well, I guess there's Luffy versus Ryuko, but she was like just on the show.
I know some people want...
There's Toriko.
I know there's, like, some people, when they think of Natsu matchups, they go to Luffy.
I forgot that was a thing.
Some
Me
people
too.
like Luffy versus Toriko. I don't really know all that much about Toriko, but it seems alright.
Anyway,
The
Zero...
most I know was people dogging.
As
on
for my
Toriko.
own
Yes.
most wanted. Alright, so I got 5. I'm gonna go over them real quick. So, number 5. One of the characters has a much more popular matchup, but I want to talk about this one in particular. That one being Nazo from Chakra X's Sonic Nazo Unleashed, or Wrath of Nazo series, going up against Infinite from the Sonic Forces Overclocked mod. It's an interesting topic to me because, for one, you can treat these as if they were canon characters because there's official statements backing up, like, in their own timelines, they exist in that canon. So you can scale them to their canon, the official canon counterparts. There's also the fact that the way that the Chaos Emeralds and the Phantom Ruby canonically interact with each other causes rips in space-time. So a clash like this would definitely be able to break apart reality, and I think that is way more entertaining of an idea than just doing a Dragon Ball Z style fight with Nazo versus Mechasonic from Super Mario Bros. Z.
Okay.
Fourth most wanted, I already mentioned it, Snake Eyes versus Genji. Don't really need to say much else about it that I haven't already said. Number 3, I'm gonna go with Mistral from Metal Gear Rising versus Black Arachnia from Transformers Animated. It's a Transformers character going up against someone from Metal Gear. That's already kind of baller as hell.
Okay.
And then you got the combined fact that it's a Metal Gear Rising character.
Standing.
So it automatically just works even better because Metal Gear Rising, you're fighting giant robots all the time. So there's really no issues here with like size or anything. And there's also the fact that both have some pretty cool abilities, and I'd definitely love to see them cover Black Arachnia's technology copy abilities at some form, as well as her paralysis venom. Number 2, Hawks versus Falcon. Very simple matchup, but I do think that they could do some very good things with it. It depends on how they interpret the Falcon in this. It depends if they decide to go with either the comics interpretation or like an MCU or like even a hybrid, which would be weird, but I could see them doing it and pulling it off somehow. My only concern would be them to whether or not they would use Captain America Sam Wilson or just Falcon.
Yeah, that's something I really would not be able to tell.
Because if you give him the shield, apparently Hawks dies, but if you don't, Hawks wins, and it's weird.
World level shield go.
Let's
Yeah.
get it.
That should
my
do
number
be
one,
tough.
my number one most wanted of all time is Scourge from Archie Sonic versus Albedo from Ben 10.
That honestly,
think-
like, that sounds cool. That sounds pretty
That's
cool.
That's
mean,
slap.
I've heard the comparisons where it's like, oh, well, this is basically just Goku Black versus Reverse Flash 2. But that's not a bad thing
No,
at all.
it's not. It's really not.
Exactly.
And it's different enough. It's different enough that it could still go so hard.
You could easily have like some cool moments where Scourge is constantly getting pissed off by Albedo constantly transforming.
Mhm.
And then you have just the sheer fact that it's an asshole again versus another guy with the god complex.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like, you could easily start this fight off by having Scourge knock over Albedo's chili fries, and then it scales up from there.
Yeah.
I would definitely love to see a bit where Albedo turns into Fast Track and tries to keep up with Scourge, but he just can't.
Yeah, that could be cool. Yeah.
And then
The big question is, would you want a Time Ha reference?
No.
no, but I do think that they could easily reference Archie Sonic versus Wally with having Scourge call Albedo a cherry flavored chump.
That would
And
be
it
perfect.
still
That'd be
works.
good.
Nice. Yeah. No, I as far as Ben 10
overall-
matchups go, I think that could be high on my list, I think. Okay, now for me. Again, I've already talked about this before, but I did kind of want to give an update because whoops, my top 2 most wanted episodes have happened now, and that moves like everything up 2 spots, and if I want to round out my top 10, then I think this is a decent place to do it. So I won't talk about every single one of them for that long. I'll talk about like maybe like a few most wanted that I have, go through the rest of them, and then bring up my new number 9 and number 10. So my most wanted is now Bugs Bunny versus Mickey Mouse. I think everyone should be well aware of that by now. I've brought it up way too often lately. But yeah, for me, it's like Stitch versus Rocket was really personal to me because I had no idea like how similar they were until like later in my life, and I'm like, wait, holy crap, I love these characters, they work so well together, how did I not notice this? And then, you know, so it was more baked into the fact that I loved them. And Mickey versus Bugs is kind of like that. Again, it's more obvious that they work really well together, but it is very similar in that it is basically 2 major aspects of my childhood that I don't want, like, I want to see that happen. I want to see them kill each other. Like Bugs Bunny and Tweety Show, I watched so much of that. Disney is so influential on so many things that I watched and loved. So for me, it's like, yeah, I think it's a little more basic now. Like Stitch versus Rocket was not basic at all in terms of like people wanting it. Bugs versus Mickey is a lot more basic, but I really don't care. Like I really just want to see that fight. And I know there's a lot of high expectations for the animation, but like if they lived up to it, holy shit, like just imagine how cool that would be. So that's my number 1. Number 2 is Gru versus Megamind. I am disappointed that it lost the Tournament of Champions. But, you know, with both Gru and Megamind getting more material this year, I could see it happening maybe in Season 12, or maybe even in Season 11 if they're able to, like, squeeze it in. But I don't know how much breathing room they have for that, so I don't want to get too excited. But that's been, like, one of my favorites for such a long time. And then number 3, this is the only other one I'll talk about like pretty decently, is Bowser versus Eggman. I'll admit I'm a little biased here because I never really got to see Mario versus Sonic as it was coming out. I did for Mario versus Sonic 2018, but like I don't really count that. But like I kind of want to have a Mario versus Sonic moment of my own, and for me that is Bowser versus Eggman. Especially like as an army fight, I think that would work so well. But now to go through the other ones just really quick and then list my new number 9 and 10. Number 4 is Simone versus Kyle. 5, Ken Koniki, Aaron Yeager. 6, Deathstroke versus Taskmaster. 7, Captain Kirk versus Han Solo. I brought that up a little earlier. And number 8, Hellboy versus Nero. For number 9, this one is easier for me to pick. I'm going to say Hiccup and Toothless versus Hero and Baymax. I recently made like a 3-minute trailer on that because I've gotten a lot more into that idea. I love How to Train Your Dragon so much. And Big Hero 6 I really enjoyed as well. But man, How to Train Your Dragon 2, holy crap, I love that movie. And then in terms of number 10, I think at this point, I have to go. I think the server has converted me to Sackboy versus Maxwell.
Let's go.
I think that. Wow. Okay. Well, it makes sense. You guys are server members, so that makes sense. Yeah. No. I think I can say that's my number 10. Because I think that would be so much fun. Like it would be like a Bill versus Discord like episode where it's just everything is coming at you all at once, and we now know they can do that well. So I think they could do that so amazingly. Other really close ones, like again, Spectral, you mentioned Ghost Rider versus Spawn. That one is probably like my number 11. Yep. Or, you know, really close. Another Marvel versus DC one I'd really like to see, and I don't think this is going to be that popular, but Vision versus Red Tornado I think would be really cool. I was worried for a minute before they did Martian Manhunter versus Silver Surfer that they were going to do Martian Manhunter versus Vision, which I don't really like that much. And Dexter versus Jimmy, that's another big one. I still have a lot that I really want to see, but again, after Stitch versus Rocket, I can wait. It's fine.
So anyways, Fuqua versus Doodle Bob.
Oh,
yes!
I actually came up with a matchup for Doodle Bob like a few months ago.
Wasn't it Doppelganger?
Yeah, Doppelganger from
Doppelganger versus
Doppelganger from Scribblenauts, like the Scribblenauts Unmasked. I think it was Unmasked. The one where it's like an evil Maxwell.
Oh no, Doppelganger's been there since the beginning.
Oh, has he? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's been here since the beginning.
He was in,
dude, I've played some of the games. Like, was he there like in the first one?
He was either in the first or second one. I know he was like a final boss in the
final boss fight was like shooting the Starrights at him.
I don't know.
Yeah, you were shooting the Starrights.
If he was in the first game, like to be fair, the first game is the one that like I've played the most. I know my brother played a lot more of some of the other ones. So if he was in the first one, I completely missed that. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he joined like right after.
I know he was present in the second game for sure.
Yeah. Oh no, I believe that. Yeah, but it's just it's a silly little thing, you know, like two evil versions of a character that draw. Like that's what it is. But you know, I thought it was funny. I thought when I'm like, oh yeah, I can think of two characters like that. Like it's weird that it happened twice. I have two nickels, you know, that kind of thing.
I don't know. I didn't think I'd get this far.
Oh, that reminds me. Another matchup I think a lot of people would want is Perry versus Skipper.
Yes!
Yes!
Yeah.
That's another big one for a lot of people. I don't even really care about those series and I want it because it'd just be fun.
For me, like I think it's so hilarious how it's like they are 100% not the main characters of their series, but they are so impactful within their series nonetheless. Like half of Phineas and Ferb is Perry and Doofenshmirtz. And with the Penguins, again, you have like these cuts to the Penguins and they have their own TV show and movie. And it's so cool how impactful they are despite not being the main characters. I think that's so funny.
Quite literally stole the show
whenever
they were on screen.
Exactly.
And that's the cool part about it.
Yep. And that's not even like any of their regular connections, but it's the cherry on top. Anyway, we are a little late for time, but I've enjoyed talking to you guys so much, and thank you all so much for being on the podcast. You know, you guys are all of my mods are my favorite mods, but you guys are some of my favorite mods. So thank you for that. And thank all of
get paid now.
No, and thank all of you guys for watching. I appreciate it. You know, again, thank you for your views. Thank you for your time. I know it's a long ass video, and maybe you just skip to the end. If so, go watch it. It's worth it. But yeah, we're gonna be doing this about once a month, hopefully. So we hope you tune in for future episodes, and of course, feel free to leave your own most wanted episodes down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But yeah, that's it for all of us. I will see everyone in the next video. Peace out.
Fornite, 497 North Parker Drive. Please, someone come save me.
Fortnite.
Okay.
So like, am I good
Anyway,
to leave
so,
now, or am I
like-
still gonna be chained up to this basement?
I don't know. I'll think about it. I will say,
You'll think about it.
yeah.